And it's funny because I'm like, even if we do one a year, like we did with Dan, and what the fuck was that?
I farted.
Oh, really? It sounded behind me. I thought the chair was breaking and everything.
Welcome back to another episode of the show where we are your hosts, Colin Peters.
John. Funboy John. Here.
Jesus fucking Christ. I fucking hate you. I hate you 100% right now. You know, I expect it every time, but I feel like in person I hate you more than we do over Zoom.
That's the point of this whole thing. And what is your name, sir?
Oh, Jeff Manford, by the way.
We have a special guest with us today, fellas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah?
Yeah. Want to introduce yourself, Justin?
Like, do you want to do the introduction or should we do it?
I'm going to let our guest do the introduction.
I'm Justin Kame.
Tell us a bit about yourself, Justin.
I'm friends with Jeff. I work with Jeff at work and love horror movies. I actually have a horror movie tattoo on my leg, and I'm just like a good movie sometimes.
Thank you for coming on with us.
Actually,
looking forward to
appreciate
this.
Yeah. We haven't had a guest in a while, too, it feels like.
Yeah, not a little bit. But we also had the suggestion, I believe it was from you.
Yes,
to
this
do
is
the
my
movie
suggestion. This is actually my second suggestion because I did the Shining and the
Dr. Sleep.
Dr. Sleep
Yep.
suggestion also.
Combo. Nice.
Yeah, today we're going to be talking about 2007's Grindhouse film, which is actually a fun love letter to the old Grindhouse movies that directors Quentin Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez did to change the movie theater experience. Because at that time in 2007, we were getting a lot of gimmick-type movies, like especially the 3D was becoming a big thing. Or it was just taking off.
It started taking off with Avatar, for sure.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
fuck that movie, too.
Yeah.
Are you
Every
not gonna
movie-
watch the second one?
I haven't seen it.
Catch everyone up. I made a bet at work. I told someone to watch Terrifier 2, and I'll watch Avatar 2. They still have yet to watch Terrifier 2. They didn't even make it halfway through the first one.
Wow.
He made it. He didn't even make it through to the pizza shop scene.
Oh, come on.
Exactly.
It's out on DVD right now.
I know, I got 5 copies.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
We have to save that for another time.
Also, another thing that we got to bring up is this was also around the time that digital projectors were starting to come into the theater. And almost instantly, I think Tarantino has said numerous times that he thought digital was the death of cinema. Because, we actually said this in our DCEU episode that we felt like, why should we keep going to see, especially like in that case, the DCEU case, it was the reboots, just constantly rebooted and remade, but movies in general are just being projected digitally. We don't get 35 millimeter experience, so a whole movie experience isn't really there. And anything that's digitally is just kind of become, and we especially see it now because of COVID and the streaming of movies like the Halloween movies were perfect example, where you could either go to the theater or you could just watch it at home. It's digital in the movie theater, it's digital at home.
Yeah.
So
Everything's digital.
So they said, why don't we do something that we love, make a love letter, and give people an experience to go to the movie theater, give them a reason to go to the movie theater, and they came up with this Grindhouse love letter idea.
It's double feature.
And Grindhouse movies were originally thought of because TVs were coming into homes, theater attendance was going down, so local movie theaters, instead of going under, they tried to come up with other ways to bring people to the theater even then. So they got a hold of these movies that were exploitation in certain subgenres, and they were very cheap, very, low quality overall.
Low quality, super violent, super nudity, super, everything to the max, so...
Everything over the top, and everybody automatically assumes that they're all trash, but really they're not. I mean, yeah, you'll find, bad ones, of course.
There's a lot of them out there.
Exactly. But we've gotten some good ones. Like, without them, they said we wouldn't have Rocky Horror Picture Show. We wouldn't have Evil Dead. You probably wouldn't even really have the independent movie scene like we know it. And it's, of course, theaters and movie experiences and filmmaking is always evolving. So this was, another step in the change of direction in the business. And it actually was innovative for other filmmakers. It gave an opportunity for people to be creative. And without it, it was at least like a seed that sprouted something that became more than what it was.
Right. Different generation, different time, because every generation has different tactics on how they can make a few pennies and make a few bucks in the movie theater. Like you talked about how digital's becoming a thing, or at least was becoming a thing in 2007. Tarantino and Rodriguez, they still like to keep the trend of making 35 millimeter movies every now and then. Look at The Hateful Eight. That was done on film. You can tell
I think that was
what
like
is film and what is
75 millimeter. Like
Yeah.
it was like huge.
Yes,
because he
the
wanted to
aspect
make
ratio was big.
Because Tarantino wanted you to see it on film in the biggest format possible.
Exactly. You can tell what's film and what's digital. It's pretty obvious if you just have a good closeful eye. But yeah, like you talked about in the 60s, 70s, and early 80s about the Grindhouse films and trying to get people to come see them. Yeah, I mean, Grindhouse movies, they're essentially just studios trying to cash in successfully on exploiting a popular trend. There's tons of exploitation films. Blaxploitation, Canucksploitation, Carsploitation. You can make anything an exploitation film. Nunsploitation. They're ridiculous, but they exist.
But they've given so many people careers too.
They have.
I mean, like one of the big ones that I can think of right away is Pam Grier.
Oh my gosh, dude. Was it Coffee and Jackie Brown?
Well, Jackie Brown was Tarantino's love letter to the blaxploitation
It was,
films.
yes.
It was what, Coffee and Foxy Brown.
Yeah. I can remember the middle one. I felt like it was like a trilogy without being a trilogy type thing.
Kind of.
But Tarantino has always been there for like the Grindhouse feel, like the really independent.
Most of his movies are. They're always like they always have that gritty, like kind of flickering stuff throughout all of his movies. Even most of them, even when they are digital, they still look that way. Nothing. He always keeps it the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
He always makes his movies on film.
He does.
And it's a big reason why. And I saw that in watching documentaries for research on this, that he still filmed Death Proof on film.
He did.
And if you notice that the first 40 minutes of Death Proof are like they have like the scratches and that Grindhouse look and feel to it.
He intentionally did that.
Exactly. But then it clears up after the second half of the movie.
Yeah.
But then it goes black and white for a while there too.
Yeah, it's like a change, like to show like it's a change in a new chapter. Of the
it's kind of like the past and then the present.
Yeah,
the past was ugly and disgusting and messy, and then the present is more precise.
Yeah, I don't know what the subjective nature is to it. It could be exactly that, John. It could just be it's Tarantino and he's saying like, this is old, this is new, and But then Robert Rodriguez, when he did Planet Terror, he did his movie digitally. He even had some digital special effects. Tarantino like shooting his stuff like right there on set, actually in camera. And I think Rodriguez also digitally put in like the camera scratches in the film, quote unquote film.
Honestly, because that looked really like rough and
and that was throughout the whole movie.
Yeah,
too.
Yeah.
It had that like, nice haze over it, so it made it that really like old school horror feel to it as well.
But right after the sex scene, you lose like 20 minutes of the film
because the missing reels. Because the Grindhouse movies were only produced on 35 millimeter for so many copies that they would just go from like theater to theater and reels would be missing. So I'm like, what better way to put it in the sex scene?
I love the jump too, because like it starts the sex scene. The next thing you know, it's this missing reel, and the whole fucking house is on fire.
And stuff's going on, and you never find out like what El Rey actually is. It is what it is. It's okay. This is who he is. Now give him all his guns. It's just like, wait a minute, what happened here?
Michael Biehn as the cop, he's like got his neck bit. You don't know what happens there. Michael Parks and was it Mary Shelton? Is that her name? from Scream.
Yeah.
Like they were at like Michael Parks' house, and then all of a sudden they just randomly are there at the barbecue, and you're like, whoa,
God.
like how much is missing from this thing?
Death Proof, you got the lap dance scene. It just cuts right to outside when Rose McGowan's getting a ride from Kurt Russell, and then the true horror begins.
And then even in the theater, these movies were actually condensed in the theater. Like now I think you could buy them on DVD, like as the theatrical version of the movie, but then they separated them for like full length feature films. So like I know at least solo wise, when you watch just Planet Terror and Death Proof alone, you're looking at about like an hour 40-minute
they're
movies
both about
each.
an hour 40 minutes.
And I think they were condensed a little bit in the theater, and there was an actual intermission to give you that double feature
There
feel.
was. I believe Planet Terror was screened first, and then you got
Yes.
the intermission, and then you got Death Proof afterwards.
Which makes no sense at all. It should have been Death Proof first and then Planet Terror.
Because there's actually characters that are alive
In Death Proof that aren't alive in Planet Terror.
This is true.
But
yes.
maybe that's the cheap feel of a Grindhouse.
that could be too.
It could be all a creative decision.
Because I actually have the collector's edition where it has
That's what
everything
I have.
together. And
Okay.
it actually pieces. It does Planet Terror, and then it does the intermission with like the 3 trailers, and then it goes into Death Proof.
That's
I
the
forgot there
other
were
thing
3
that's fun.
trailers.
And then we even got 2 full-length movies from the trailers?
I know
Hobo
we got
with a
Machete.
shotgun
Hobo
We got
and
Machete.
And Machete, yeah.
too.
Hobo with a
We're actually
shotgun.
getting a third one, the Eli Roth one about the
no,
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I
or
heard about
Thanksgiving.
that.
Thanksgiving.
I think it's Thanksgiving, maybe Thanksgiving. I think Thanksgiving's that one with the turkey.
Yeah, it has to be.
Eli Roth does not do anything for me.
Well, he's also one that has a love letter to Grindhouse. Look at all his movies.
Look at the
That's-
Green Inferno.
Yeah.
To the cannibal films of the 80s.
I don't want to. His acting's horrible, too.
We're not talking about his acting.
I'm talking about everything.
Yeah.
That's why I added it
I'm
in
talking
there.
about everything he's done.
I mean, he sucked it in Glorious Bastards. He sucked in Death Proof, and his movie sucks. So.
I didn't hate him in Inglourious Bastards.
I
That was, like,
hated
that was
him,
the
eh?
one time that
Mickey
he was
fucking
accepted.
Rivers, man! Get out of here! It was horrible. The only reason why he got that job was because him and Tarantino were buddies.
I was like, but Tarantino's acting is no better.
Yeah.
Dude, that bad Australian accent in Django Unchained.
Oh, yeah.
Listen,
Holy
I
fuck.
will watch Tarantino over Eli Roth, though.
Well, he
And you
was
know
a-
what? It's his movie, so I'll let that go.
That's like Kevin Smith putting himself in the movies. Is he a great actor? No.
No.
But he always makes a good point when he's in there.
He almost
Hey,
put
it
himself
works.
as Pai Mei in Kill Bill Volume 2. If he had done that, I would have like walked out the fucking theater if he was Pai Mei. Like, no way. No. You're not putting Tarantino in this role.
Oh, yeah, no, I remember that.
Almost happened, but didn't happen.
And that's just like in Death Proof. He was the bartender. It was not that great.
It's kind of
He's
that
like-
typical, though, that he does do that. It's like a Hitchcock thing where Hitchcock would have a cameo here and there in his
Yeah.
own movies. You know,
Yeah.
for a cameo, it's not that bad. But
William Castle.
Yeah, well, him too. But I mean, like, I don't mind seeing him. I mean, yeah, his shit's not great as far as his acting goes, but I mean, it doesn't bother me nearly as much as Eli Roth.
Why don't we give a quick rundown of both movies so that
Yeah.
everyone knows what we're talking about before we finally get in?
Yeah.
Oh, you want me to do it?
I mean-
I thought you wanted
Oh,
to
I
do
can
it.
do it. I don't give a shit either way.
Get the hands moving.
All right, so Planet Terror is your typical like end of the world zombie flick. It's a military grade virus that is essentially dispersed through gas, and I'm guessing bite as well because there's a lot to it that
Yeah.
was going on.
Well, what happened was there were these military guys who were infected by this virus, and the bioengineer had a cure for it, but I guess like some conflict happens, and Bruce Willis has a little bit of a cameo, and I forget exactly what the reason for them not
Well-
getting the cure was.
Well, something I think from my memory, they got Bruce Willis and his military team killed Osama bin Laden, and when they killed Osama bin Laden, they got face full of gas. So they tried to talk to this guy who was like a chemical engineer, and he was chemically engineering the gas for them. And then I guess he betrayed Bruce Willis, and then they ended up blowing up the gas,
And it
and then
dispersed
the gas
in
had
the air.
dispersed into the air.
So yeah, it was typical zombie flick.
Typical zombie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just a lot to it.
Yeah.
And he wanted to know, where's the
My
shit?
I mean, it was nice seeing Bruce Willis in it. And like as much as we love Bruce Willis, like there are a string of movies that are horrible, but it's still Bruce Willis at the end of the day.
Oh yeah.
And all it was just a cameo. Like
Yeah.
I think because he had worked with Tarantino a couple times and got
Pulp
to know
Fiction.
Robert Rodriguez, he said that he was willing to work with Rodriguez on whatever, and he was able to find time, and they just happened to put him in that cameo position, and that's how he got in there.
Oh yeah.
I felt like it was actually fitting too, because like being that figurehead and being who he really is, like it was kind of cool seeing him. And like I forgot he was in the movie, and then I'm watching like, oh shit,
You see him turning.
a giant bulbous.
A distorted version.
And they constantly wear those gas masks because it keeps the zombie infection from like making them go full zombie or just like
'Cause they have to-
decaying.
They have to keep
bodies.
inhaling the gas. It keeps them from
Yeah.
turning.
Yeah. Turning or just dying.
I think it's dying because it will
Okay.
kill them. Because I think the gas is like every disease, illness, all wrapped into one, pretty much.
That's one way to make the ultimate virus.
Yeah,
God.
that's like a big fuck you. Oh my gosh! And then, out of true Grindhouse fashion, the scientist who helped engineer the virus, who also was working on the antidote, air quotes, he had a great jar full of balls because whoever betrayed him, he cut their nuts off and kept them. Weird tool too. It was like a pair of scissors that had like two giant nutcrackers.
Yes.
God.
And the main characters that they focus on are played by Rose McGowan and Freddie Rodriguez. I
Yep.
mean, you got a pretty big ensemble in Planet Terror here.
Josh Brolin's in this too.
Josh Brolin.
But
Michael Biehn from Terminator.
what's her name? The chick from Black Eyed Peas.
Fergie.
Fergie.
Fergie's in it. Yeah.
But out of that whole entire movie, I think Rose McGowan is the most iconic and memorable person because of the machine gun leg. Like,
Which was a tribute to Ash from Evil Dead with the chainsaw.
Okay.
and it's actually really cool because like, she is such a badass in that movie. Even though like she's trying to like tone it down. I'm like, come on.
You have an AR-15 for a leg, and you're flying in the air shooting grenade launchers.
Dude, I forgot about that too. Like she jumps the wall with the grenade launcher, and I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And then was it all useless, whatever?
Useless
The
talent.
talents, yeah.
And she's using it the whole time, annihilating these zombies. I'm like, all right.
The go-go dance. She was a go-go dancer, not a stripper, and she's like using different positions and her dancing abilities to like just dust everybody off with this leg gun. And I gotta admit, like I've always liked Rose McGowan as an actress, and even though this movie is like just so over the top, but you could tell she was having fun and she did a really good job with it. Even Freddie Rodriguez, I think, had a standout performance with it. And,
Oh yeah.
And I heard Robert Rodriguez say that Freddie Rodriguez is a tiny dude. He might be like 5'4", 5'5".
Small.
Hey,
But-
watch it.
I'm just saying, because listen, this is symbolic, is that the more that stuff kept on escalating and it showed his leadership, the camera angles made it look like he was getting taller.
I never picked up on that.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have to watch it again.
I caught it like towards the end. I'm like, because in the beginning you see like he looks short, and then like towards the end you're like, how the fuck did?
They give him the Tom Cruise treatment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Standing in the box.
But I like that. I liked how it showed like the character was growing. He was growing into a leadership. Like he has this weird past of like he caused some trouble because Michael Biehn as this was he the sheriff or just
Yeah.
He's a
police?
sheriff. Yeah.
He was saying that, you know, like I know about your trouble, and then like, you know, we all said the missing reel. We don't really know what the past is. It's kind of like Fez, like where's he from? You know, you know, we don't know, and it just, but he never misses, and he's really good with guns apparently.
I know they also, Freddie Rodriguez and Robert Rodriguez wanted to give Rose McGowan this role because of what she was also going through behind the scenes with
The Weinsteins.
the Weinsteins, because they wanted to sort of reinvent her as this badass chick by giving her this machine gun leg and mowing down people and sort of reasserting herself, because this came out a couple of years ago. That's why they did this for her. And it's kind of odd because the Weinsteins produced both movies. This is their production company that they backed up. And I kind of was a little odd, like, oh, I'm sure, why did she want to agree to do with them producing? She
Well,
agreed to be in this movie. with
Robert
them
Rodriguez and her were also dating at the time.
Okay. But that was great of them to sort of do that for her. to be
Yeah, I
like,
agree.
Hey, we know you've been fucked over, so let's bring you like a phoenix out of the ashes.
Oh yeah, and she rocked in the movie. Like I think she's really been good in like almost everything I've seen.
I'd say most people know her from Scream.
Yeah,
They do.
Tatum. And
Oh,
she was badass
I know
in
her
that
from
too.
Charmed, so
Charmed, yeah. Ready to Rumble. Oh, we remember
Ready to Rumble. Yeah. She had her own conversations about that movie, but still, she was.
Hey, we love it, so
I love it.
That's
It's
all
my
that matters.
ultimate guilty pleasure. So.
But like you guys said, that it's a typical zombie movie. There's a lot of action. There's a lot of ensemble to it. I'd probably say out of the two, it's the better one.
Oh,
it has story,
Yeah.
it has structure, it's entertaining from beginning to end. Is it a great movie? No.
It's a typical Grindhouse film. Like they did what he wanted to do. I'm gonna admit something. I probably laughed at a scene that was probably the most fucked up.
The kid.
Yeah. It was one of those things because I remember something happens with this kid, and then as soon as she hands him the gun, I'm like, no. And then like 30 seconds, she's like, don't point that at your face. He walks to the door, and I'm like, bang. I'm like, oh.
But then he's back. Yeah. Like at the end of the credits, he's back playing with his turtle and scorpion in the sand.
Who the fuck?
And I'm like, wait a minute.
I thought you were gonna see this scene where Tarantino had his pants down. He started turning.
No, and his balls fall off.
Yeah.
The greatest part ever. The best part is when I watched the movie, my wife didn't watch it with me, and she literally turned around and looked at the screen, and she's like, "What the hell is happening?" And his balls are falling off, and it was just like, never mind.
Yeah.
But I mean, even that whole story with Josh Brolin and the chick from Sandlot.
It's Mary Shelton, right?
Mary Shelton.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that whole storyline was actually kind of cool too because it's showing the dynamic of
Marley
those two.
Shelton.
Marley. Okay, thank
Marley
you.
Shelton.
And like you can see it's escalating through the whole movie, and then finally she gets her chance, and her dad like ends up coming in.
I never liked that guy.
But I thought that was a cool like a side story when the main storyline is the zombie apocalypse.
Yeah.
They fit a lot into that movie with everything going on, and for it to be so consistent,
Yeah.
it really doesn't get boring. It is
No.
it is interesting, and it does keep you like on the edge of your seat. And I mean, like we said, they're the only things that we really don't find out are like what's up with El Rey, Freddy
Yeah.
Rodriguez. But at the end of the day, did it really matter?
No.
Because you just know that there's a tiff. It could have been anything. Could have been drug runner. Could have accidentally shot the sheriff's dog.
Oh shit! That reminds me. When you're saying that, all I can think of is Tom Savini has a funny cameo in that movie.
Yeah, he does. And what's even funnier yet is Greg Nicotero and Howard Berger, who worked on the Elm Street movies, were also the makeup guys on both Planet Terror and Death Proof.
Oh, that's actually badass.
Okay.
And when Michael Biehn first comes into the hospital, he's got Tom Savini on his side, and on the other side is the actor who was the original El Mariachi.
No shit.
Yeah,
Nice.
before Antonio Banderas took over.
Yeah, that was his first film, wasn't it? Robert
Rodriguez?
Rodriguez's film. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, first film. Kind of got him started.
I forgot he did all those, like Once Upon a Time, and
Yep.
Mexico,
The Mariachi trilogy is what you would
Desperado.
call it. Yeah.
that's actually really cool though.
Mm-hmm.
I like those movies. They're good. But that's Planet Terror in a nutshell. I mean, there's really like no resolution. Like the zombies are still around. They go off to like an island or something,
Mexico.
and they're still there.
With Rose McGowan with a Gatling gun
Yeah.
as her leg now.
That's the only conclusion we get is
Yeah.
Rose McGowan gets more badass, and she has El Rey's baby.
And it's kind of like she has that new motherly instinct. It's kind of like she picks up El Rey's torch of being the leader, and
Yeah.
she kind of like. Well, didn't she even say when she leaves, she quits the go-go dancing job, that she needs to do something more meaningful with her life?
Yeah, she wants to become a comedian.
A stand-up comedian, yeah. She even says when she loses her leg, "No, they'll never take me serious as a comedian." Like her legs are saying.
Yeah, her one-liners were actually what stood out too, because like everyone keeps telling me I'm funny.
And Freddy Rodriguez is like, "You're not funny."
Even like with Josh Brolin, like even his character, like his side stories that he had just in the hospital with like the dude that came in with the bite and he's got like stage 5 gangrene and he's like, how did you get this? And this is like 14 days old, and he's like, no, this just happened. Like even that, those
Like-
side stories just with him were like good.
Well, I think that was also setting the timeline for infection. So
Yeah.
I think he said it was a half-hour bite.
Yeah.
It looked like it was already 14
Yeah.
days in.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess it was showing the progression of the virus itself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I did like the fact that every time he met with a patient that was further along in the infection, he kept checking his temperature.
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't catch it the first time, and it was like towards the end when he kept doing it, and then it broke, and I'm like, oh shit, he was doing that the whole time.
Well, they said something about like, is that sterile? Somebody asked him because he kept on checking his temperature, and I think a patient said, "Are you sure that's sterile to be doing that here?"
And I think he said something like, well, I'm the only one using it, and then he said it also keeps me calm by chewing on it or something like that. And he said, well, what if you break it? And he goes, well, then I'm not calm. And then that's when he lifts the blanket up, and that's when Fergie's there, and then he bites down, and it cracks into a million pieces.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I mean, both these movies do have a lot of good, funny one-liners in them. I mean, are they standout jokes? Not really. I wouldn't rewatch them just for it, but they do add on to the entertainment value to it.
I mean, even the in-between trailers were actually pretty, like, more funnier than the movies themselves.
I agree.
Oh, with Machete and all that, yeah.
Like, it starts off with Machete leading into Planet Terror, and then you get Rob Zombie's Werewolf Woman of the SS. I think it's called Edgar Wright's Nope, or something along those lines, or Get Out, or whatever. It's like, it's a typical ghost story, and I didn't realize who it was until Nick Frost showed up in the trailer. I'm like, oh, it makes sense now. And then you got Eli Roth's Thanksgiving movie, and then it actually does the old school, like, rated R trailer opening with the panther. I started laughing. I was like, that's actually pretty cool.
The red band trailers.
Yeah.
Hobo with a Shotgun. That was one of them too, wasn't it?
I think it was before or after one of the two?
I don't remember.
That became a film.
There were so many.
Yeah.
I just remember the trailers at the, as of now.
I remember at the time, Rob Zombie was actually playing the trailer at his shows for the Werewolf Woman of the SS.
That's right. We saw the live show where they played it there.
I think he actually played a song to it or made a song for it.
Hey, wait, the Werewolf of the SS, weren't they in Haunted World of El Super Beasto then?
Yeah.
They're part of the Hitler Army.
Like, I feel like Zombie knows, like, ahead of time what he's going to reuse, and it does work out perfectly.
His own universe, their own universe. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie.
His films are like Grindhouse too.
Oh, they're 100%.
They
like,
are.
How gritty they are, and like
The Devil's Rejects.
I say House of a Thousand Corpses is probably the one that everyone will remember as a Grindhouse film.
Oh yeah.
But the funny thing is, I would love to see Nicolas Cage play Fu Manchu.
He will do it.
Oh, absolutely.
He will do it.
He'll play anything.
But this leads into Death Proof.
Yeah. In terms of the jokes, they all come from, in my opinion, from Kurt Russell. Like, he has the best lines in this entire movie. And for me, he actually makes the movie work as a whole.
Basis of Death Proof is, this is Tarantino's film, and honestly, I don't even know why it's called Death Proof. They might as well just call this movie fucking Feet. Because that's all you see.
That's the opening shot.
I would say, or not shutting the fuck up. That's the problem.
But it's based around Kurt Russell's character, who was originally supposed to be Mickey Rourke, but then supposedly agents got involved, and it came down to the wire of like, hey, you're going to do it, you're going to not do it. And Mickey was all about doing it, but then the agent said they needed him for something. And I guess the idea was they were big John Carpenter fans, they meaning Rodriguez and Tarantino, and Planet Terror being something of like a John Carpenter like influence. You know, if you even look at like Special Thanks, I think John Carpenter's name's even in the credits.
Oh, really? Okay.
And they said, why don't we look into getting Kurt Russell because of The Thing and, Escape from New
York.
York. And they said Kurt Russell was game. He loved the script and came involved, and he played Stuntman Mike, who is this old
Stuntman Bob.
Stuntman Mike.
Yeah, right,
yeah, they accidentally call him Bob at one point.
Stuntman Bob. That's his brother.
And then he worked on all these shows, but he's basically like an old relic now because everything's all CGI. And what he does is he takes his stunt-proof, death-proof car and uses it to kill pretty much
girlfriends.
Yeah, his quote-unquote girlfriends.
His women that he hunts and kills.
He pretty much stalks easy prey, and then all of a sudden in like half of the movie you find out that some of these other girls that he's stalking really aren't as easy prey as he thinks.
Yeah.
They're also stunt people.
Yeah.
Zoe Bell, she's definitely a stunt woman, and she did all her own stunts in that very ending. Great work. But yeah, this may be unpopular, but I do enjoy this one a little bit more than Planet Terror. Give me the middle fingers. I don't give a shit. Fine. It's almost like a parody of Tarantino's work because you've got the shots of feet, you've got the long conversations that harken back to Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, and you've got everything you could ever ask for in a Tarantino film. Snappy dialogue, they really all do come from Kurt Russell, in my opinion, who does make the movie work as a whole. Just the mic, stuntman Mike. Is it my scar? It's your car. Sorry, it's my mom's car, which I fucking love. I know he came up with the idea for Death Proof. I forget what actor he was talking to, but basically they came and said, you know, you can death proof your car for about 15 grand and it will be immune to almost anything except explosions. But you just give a certain amount of money to an auto body shop and they'll make it death proof for you. And that name stuck with him for years. Then he decided, that'd be a good name for a movie. Let's call it Death Proof. So that's how it came to be. So yeah, he drives a stunt car and it's essentially death proof. Like the brakes stop instantly. It's immune to a lot of physical damage. I mean, you saw what he did to those women in the first segment. In case you weren't clear, they go back and forth to show every single one of them getting injured in that fucking vehicle.
Yeah.
You get a tire to the face, you get a leg cut off, you get somebody flying 20 feet in the air. It's insane. Yeah, but like you were saying, Colin, it's scratched up in the beginning. You see the intentional cuts. Like the car was there 1 minute and now it's gone. And the lap dance cut short. Now they're outside. And
it wasn't even a lap dance. That was shit. If I was him, I would have killed him too after that.
And Jeff's trying to compose himself. However, it was that moment, the song, the Coasters have that song Down in Mexico. I fucking love that version. I could never find it anywhere else. And I found out it's a rare recording of it. It's not accessible. So I'm like,
Tarantino's good at like picking the right songs for the right
he's
moments.
good at it. He's really good at it. And I got a chance to, meet the not surviving members of the Coasters. I asked them if they could play that on stage. They're like, oh man, we haven't played that song in forever, man. When we got our set list already lined up, we'll see what we can do. But, you want a picture? I'm like, hell yeah, I want a picture of you guys. I know you're not the surviving members of the Coasters, but you're keeping their name alive, essentially.
So they say they're the surviving members, but they're not.
They're just keeping the name around.
I gotcha.
Yeah,
it just sounds funny that they're like,
all these doo-wop bands, they're not the original members. There's like one or two maybe surviving members of these doo-wop bands, and none of them are the original members. But hey, they're making money. They're doing their thing. They're traveling across the country, and they were fun to see. Yeah, they didn't play Down in Mexico like I wanted them to, but they did end with Yakety Yak, Don't Talk Back, as they expected to. But yeah, it's like I said, it's a parody of Tarantino's work. Everything you could have asked for is in this movie. So,
here's the good things that I will say about Death Proof is that you can obviously see that Tarantino had a love for making this movie because it was something that he wanted to do. It was like his influence. It was like a baby to him. It was his dialogue. I mean, obviously there's feet in it, and you know how much he loves that.
The opening shot is a pair of feet.
It's all over the fucking movie.
Yeah.
Doesn't Kurt Russell lick a toe?
He does.
Rosario Dawson's
He does.
feet. That's kind of like what starts the like he marked them in a way.
Mm-hmm.
That's gross.
And like it's totally like something that was him. I mean, it would almost be like the equivalent if like me as a filmmaker, like because you guys know I love Tarantino, I love Tim Burton. That if like I would emulate a Tim Burton or Tarantino movie, they would be like me doing something like what they do. He's basically doing something that he saw that he loved and he was doing it himself.
Yeah.
Other than that, I really don't have any good things to say about it. I think it was way too much power for it was like Tarantino doing Tarantino and more. Like the dialogue was way too much. It was almost like a Psycho thing where here are these group of girls and then you got 40 minutes, not 20 minutes, like 40 minutes. And then they just die. And there's no character development for them. I don't feel anything with them. No. I didn't really care about what they were saying. I didn't even care about what the next group of girls were saying.
And that's the kind of thing. They're talking. It's snappy dialogue, but what are exactly they talking about? Do we care? Not really. It's just it's almost kind of like those parts feel like filler to me, and it does.
And that's
drag.
what the whole movie was.
Yeah, I agree with that.
It's like filler until the final 15 minutes of the movie, which is what we've all wanted to see from the start.
I wanted to see something at that point.
I mean, honestly, even though the finale was actually like a fucking letdown, like as much as the buildup was there, it was literally you watching this monster be the monster in the first 40 minutes. And then you're watching this monster build up again to literally bitch out?
Yeah, he turns into a little bitch in like the last 5 minutes.
He did get shot though too.
But
so
no,
Well, he's a stunt guy.
Exactly. If he's supposed to be a monster, and you're instantly turning into that as soon as you come
Here's
up
the
against an
thing.
adversary.
Stuntman. Sure, he's been probably shot in films, but not for real shot.
But
So
still, he knows injuries.
Yeah.
And if you are going to be stalking people and think like, oh, they're just easy prey, well then, yeah, you're a little bitch. You know, and good for the girls to just be like, fuck this guy. You know,
maybe that was his character the whole time. It could have been like maybe he's acting like this tough macho guy because he's
maybe,
got a car.
but it doesn't do anything for us.
No.
Like we watch it and go, oh, so after all this time, this dude just bitches out, and it's all like,
Did he actually say, "I'm sorry, it was a joke"?
yeah,
Exactly. You know that.
like he's running them off the fucking road. Oh, it was a joke? You don't joke about that.
But hey, he said that was fun.
Yeah, for him.
Or the alcohol bottle, and he pulls the alcohol bottle and dumps it all over. Just do it. Ah! And he starts screaming and crying.
But yeah, I mean, it was short, sweet, to the point how they just fucking beat the shit out of him, break his neck, and he dies. The end.
Break his neck. They stomped his face in.
Yeah.
They beat him with a bunch of wood and then stomped his face in.
Beat him with a bunch of wood.
And so much for that death-proof car.
I know, right?
Well, I think the second car wasn't as death-proof as the first one. Because in the first car, it had like plexiglass and everything else in it. The second one, it just had the strap, the bucket seat with the racing straps on it.
I mean, that car got fucked in the first 40 minutes. Like,
Well, that was
just went
stupid on his
through a
part,
damn
man.
car. And, yeah, there's a time lapse because it's going to take time for you to heal, and it's going to take time to make the repairs to that damn car. So I can see why it's not as death proof as it was originally, because he really fucked up those.
I mean,
But in that
first
time,
four.
he could have
But I
done
think
it.
it was a different car, though. I think the second one was a different car.
It could have been.
It was his mom's car.
but I mean,
And it doesn't really matter.
yeah. I mean, even the first one, he set it up better because, like, he, in the true fashion of a serial killer, he set up his alibi. He set up everything leading up to. Where the second time, it was more or less just, I need a fix, and it kind of just happened.
Thrill of the chase. so
Yeah,
to say.
and where the first one, like, he knew the bartender, he was talking to the bartender, made sure he was only drinking water. The reason he was there was because of the food. So it was like that buildup was there. The second one, you're just like, oh look, there's people, let's kill them. Didn't even like do his research. It literally would have found out real quick.
He got sloppy. I mean, there could be a lot of things factored in. There's not a lot of things explained. It's just pretty much A to B.
You know,
And maybe that was the intention. I don't know, but I think that's another reason why.
It's a Grindhouse movie. A
Yeah,
lot of Grindhouse movies
like-
are like that.
Yeah, and that's another reason why it is highly unlikable.
Mhm.
You know, I remember Jackie was watching it with me, and she even said, because we saw the Rotten Tomatoes percentage pop up, and I think it still got like a 66% fresh rating.
I can't take those seriously. For a lot of
And even
movies.
she was like, "How?" And I said, "It's Tarantino. Like nobody can like criticize him who's a critic, but I think fans can, and we have. I mean, like as huge of a fan of his work as I am, this is easily his worst movie."
You know, I don't think he even really considers it part of his canon. Like, you see, like, in The Hateful Eight, the 8th film by Tarantino, you count all his films, and wait a minute,
Well,
it's 9 because you didn't count...
Well, I
Death-
think
oh, you
he
didn't
doesn't
Death
count
Proof.
Kill Bill 2.
He
Because
doesn't
it was
count
supposed to
that.
be... Yeah, I think that's what it
one
is, because it was
film.
Because
supposed to
they're
be
one film. Okay.
oh, because he
fine.
was calling it part 1 and 2.
Volume 1 and 2.
Yeah. Or whatever.
Okay. Well, I didn't get that. That makes sense. Okay. I consider
think
them
that's
two separate
why.
films, but it's one chapter. Or not one chapter. It's, yeah.
Unpopular opinion. I really don't like Tarantino.
It's all right.
I'm just...
That's fine.
Like,
You don't have to.
You know, I think personally, I think he's an asshole.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I love his work. You know, it's like Axl Rose from Guns N' Roses. He's an asshole,
let's
but I
not
like
bring
the
that up.
music.
But I think it is. Like, I've enjoyed more of his newer films than his older films. I think, yes, he puts the time and effort in each film, but sometimes I feel it takes too fucking long to get to the point.
I agree.
Yeah.
So we've got, what, let's say, I'm trying to think, there's probably like 4 movies that are, 3.5 hours long that he did? I'm thinking of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Django Unchained, Hateful Eight.
Hateful Eight was too long, in my opinion.
and-
Oh yeah, I'd probably put that a little bit above Death Proof. As
That
like,
really wasn't my favorite one.
Oh, and Inglourious Bastards was almost 3 hours.
yeah.
So out of those 4 films, I would say Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was probably the best one because it wasn't even the dialogue; it was the narrative that made that movie.
I agree. That was one of his better movies.
Where Django Unchained, I thought it was done halfway through the movie, and I'm like, oh fuck, there's another hour and a half to go.
Still going. It's still going. Yeah.
Honestly, my first Tarantino film was Reservoir Dogs. Now I know I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think it's because there's so much dialogue and everything leading up to what's going on, and it's just so long that it's just like, I think it took me like a couple days to watch the whole thing, and I love watching movies. Like, I'm a person, I sit down, I watch a movie from start to finish. I will not get up or move or anything, and it's just like, I can't get through this, and I'd like pause it or stop it and then start it back up later, and it's just like, oh, I can't get through this.
Yeah, for me, that was Jackie Brown. That was the one that took me a couple tries to get through from start to finish.
Really?
Yeah.
I actually thought Jackie Brown is more solid than what people give it credit
I know
for.
it's a good movie.
Yeah,
just
no,
for some
you're right.
reason it just took me a little longer to get through than the other ones. That's just my opinion, of course. But
I don't think some people realize that's a Tarantino movie either.
they don't.
I
Ben
didn't
Greer,
at first.
Robert Forster, they're both great. They got great chemistry.
Michael
in that
Keaton's
time.
in it.
Yeah, he is.
Is Sid Haig in that one, or is that one of the other ones?
Sid Haig's the bartender in Kill Bill.
Bill.
Well,
Volume
no, I mean he's in
2, I
one
think.
of the Foxy Jackie Brown whatever fucking movies. He looks like a Muppet because like
Fox Force 5.
He's got the bald head and like a beard. And he actually looks like a Muppet. Yeah. And I think it's Foxy Brown, but I could be wrong.
He is in
Jackie Brown,
Volume 2 in Kill Bill. He's
Yeah.
the bartender. I know that.
But I think the one thing that pissed me off about his earlier films, like Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, I get it. He's the one that popularized, like, let's twist the story and kind of, like, show the beginning at the end. It kind of was annoying after a while.
Yeah, when you do it consistently, it gets really old, and that's where I get annoyed with his stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong. I get critical about how he does structure his films. Sometimes it's too much dialogue driven. I mean, a lot of, like, one of the coolest compliments that I think we got on this show that somebody told me was a lot of our conversations sound like Tarantino dialogue. And I was like, that's actually really cool to hear for a podcast.
I like that.
Because it is like, you know, we go back and forth and say, like, we like this, we don't like this for this reasons and that reasons. And people go, like, you guys sound like you remind me of a Tarantino movie. And I'm like, that's actually really cool. But that also goes to show, you don't have to go to a theater then to watch that if there's nothing on screen worth watching. That is exactly the problem with Death Proof. It was a bunch of bullshit. Nothing worth watching, and I'll admit this right here. I'm gonna say it right now, Jeff. You're gonna hate me for it, but I think Showgirls is a better fucking movie than Death Proof. Fight me on it all you want.
No, hear me out. I will actually agree with you on this one.
Wow. So you have something nice to say about
I
Showgirls?
do. This is the first time.
Wow,
Finally
we got
have
it.
something
We got
nice
him.
to say about Showgirls. Did you lose a bet just now?
I
must
think I
have.
did. My soul hurts a little bit right now.
Do you want to go clean your gutters?
Oh my gosh, I might have to. Oh my gosh.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, I 100% agree with that statement because at least with Showgirls, it had some watchability, even though I had to go clean my gutters. With this film, I actually did not want to finish it because I was so bored. I ended up literally getting up 4 times. I restarted it twice.
Ooh.
And I'm sitting there going, gosh,
I think the Planet Terror fumes are getting to you right now. There's no fucking way I can agree with that statement.
dude, I was up at 4 o'clock in the morning starting this movie, and I'm still like, this movie was, I should have went back to bed. I mean, like, I enjoy Tarantino films, but this one was like, yeah, kicking the dick. I would have preferred that over watching this movie. Hell, I would even rewatch Showgirls and probably enjoy it.
I'd
That's a
rewatch
big statement.
I'd
It's a
rewatch
Showgirls. Out of him.
very, very bold
You know,
statement.
after this, I think we should rewatch Showgirls and do a Mystery Science Theater thing and say, like, yo, this is much better than Death Proof. Just for this scene alone.
We're going to start the film with that.
For me, Death Proof, overall, through the whole thing, it's an okay film. But I think, again, it's a lot of talking and him setting everything up, and which is good. But then I also think it's just like, boom, he annihilates the first 4, and then it's like, okay, he's in the hospital, he's recovering, okay, now he's going to start over. And it's just like, there wasn't any, that's what I'm looking for. Like, it just was like,
There's no motive.
yeah, it's just like, okay, I'm going to stalk these girls, okay, now I killed these girls, okay, now I'm going to stalk these girls, watch them, and now I'm going to fuck with them all day. And just like, it's just kind of like,
Yeah, I mean that could be like we said, the Grindhouse movie, like
Staple.
Yeah, like the structure of the script is not there
Because Grindhouse movies, they don't have money. They don't have the money to make the movies they want to make, but they are desperate enough to make the films they want to make because they want to get their name out there.
And to be fair, they make them. So
They do.
And we all know how difficult
You
it is
know-
to make movies. I mean, you need a lot of
Yeah, you
time
do.
goes into them. If you're not willing to be up all night at times, hey, you're in the wrong profession.
Sometimes it's exciting because you learn about these really high-profile filmmakers that had to get their start somewhere, and some of them got their start through some Grindhouse films. Look at the Roger Corman movies. He ripped off basically what was going to be Alien by making Forbidden Planet. Who did he get to make the creature designs? He got James Cameron, who was basically a workaholic in that film. The movie sucked. Everyone remembers the maggot rape scene, but he basically took what he learned in that movie and made the blueprint for Aliens, a far better movie that happened years down the road.
Oh yeah,
Wait,
people
wait.
do get starts and experience from it.
Yeah, Jeff, is that something for you to look up right now?
No,
The
no, I've seen
maggot
the
rape
movie.
scene.
I'm just saying, you're more worried about the maggot rape scene than the fact that like Sid Haig's in that movie too.
Sid Haig is in that movie.
I watched it because of that, because I was like, really, this is a real scene? Yes, it is.
Yes, it's a real scene. It's a low-budget Grindhouse film, a science exploitation film, science fiction.
Yeah, and I'm not ragging on Grindhouse films
No.
in general because I mean, like yeah, we get some good, we get some bad.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get some of the like better ideas, like if you want more of say like Batman and you get like a Batman ripoff or something. Or perfect example, it's not really a reboot or a remake, but they couldn't do Dracula, so F.W. Murnau made Nosferatu, which is basically Dracula. It's just a
It
ripoff
is.
version.
It is.
And it's and it's a classic in its own right.
I mean, even if you look at the Hammer horror films, they were
They were
rip-off.
big ones in
Mhm.
that, yeah.
Dude, the like orange blood, over the top violence, that it had all the Grindhouse feels that were there, and
Yeah.
like I feel like to me those are more popular than some of the other like Universal Monster-esque era.
They just took place across the pond in
Yeah.
Britain. Yeah.
I mean, that's where we got Peter Cushing and Christopher Lee from it, and it's like there's a lot there, and I feel like most of the time here in the U.S. they don't get enough notoriety.
I also think like in the U.S. we get so many business people that act like they're in such control over the property that like like I remember hearing Rob Zombie say that when he was doing the first Halloween that the Weinsteins were like, we own the property of the original Halloween, and if you're gonna redo the first one you got to make sure it's perfect, and like we got to have like this scene and that scene in, and he was kind of like feeling like he was being psychologically messed with by them because it was like, we have control over this property. It's like no, it's like if we would go to a studio and say, without actually saying, I got the next Pulp Fiction or the next, best movie since James Cameron's last huge hit, and they'll just look at it and go, yeah, no. Like look at Nightmare on Elm Street. It was passed around all over the place, and like,
We have the money. We have the power.
Yeah,
we
we don't
decision to-
believe this. This is junk. And
Yeah.
then look what happened. And then now they're all like fighting for the rights of it. For Wes Craven's estate to make something with it, and it's like, well, they didn't have any faith in it before, but now.
But the people who made the Grindhouse movies, they had a hunger because they wanted to make a movie and they didn't want to be tied down to corporate executives breathing down their neck to make a project.
Which is good and bad because, like I said, look at Death Proof. It was way too much Tarantino.
It was. That was a lot of control. Yeah, too much control.
So it's too much Tarantino for Tarantino.
That's why I said a parody of itself. That's what it is.
But it didn't help the case at all. I mean, the only thing that really makes this whole project stand out is the fact that they were nostalgic with the Grindhouse movies and they wanted to bring that double feature back into the cinema, being nostalgic, say, hey, this is something we love. And you got two heavy hitters with Rodriguez and Tarantino.
You do.
And when it came out, it flopped.
I think the thing is that Rodriguez still dealt with Grindhouse, going from Mariachi all the way to Machete. Even if you look at Spy Kids, like it was still there. Like he dealt with it all the way through. Where Tarantino dealt with, I don't even know what the fuck to call this movie sometimes, because like I said, it's more of talking than what's going on. Like, so it's like almost like two parallels, but they're running in the same direction. You're just getting a different result. So like, yes, the movie could have the Grindhouse feel, but you're going with one that, like you said, is a heavy hitter who deals with Grindhouse all the time compared to one who really just stuck his foot into it.
Dialogue driven.
Yeah. But here's
His
the other
movies are dialogue driven.
here's the other thing though, like what people don't understand is like, especially when it comes to the talent, the actors that Tarantino gets, they can deliver those lines and make it really well, make it engaging. Like Pulp Fiction is engaging from like their dialogue, from Samuel L. Jackson and his like, oh, I'm sorry, did I break your concentration? Or look at Christoph Waltz in Inglourious Bastards at the beginning when he was talking about the milk and who he is, and then he's just like messing with the dairy farmer, and he finally says, "You're hiding Jews under your floorboards, aren't you?" And the dude's like, "Yeah."
That's a testament to his skill at dialogue.
Yeah, like he knows how to put that down and have the actors deliver that. Like it's kind of like the calm, like, oh, nothing's gonna happen, and then it goes from 0 to 10.
Yeah.
You know, like Tarantino's good at that. That was not in Death Proof.
No.
Nothing. I mean, it was just like the sheer nostalgia of the exploitation, and he had some good talent in there. I'm not going to deny that. I didn't mind the female cast. You know, I actually thought Kurt Russell was even decent in it, but
He's the best part of that movie, in my opinion.
but yeah, I mean, I just didn't. I just watched it and said, this is so fucking boring. I only watched it once when it first came out on Netflix, and then I haven't watched it since, and I was excited when we talked about rewatching it again because I was like, yeah, I'll see it with a different set of eyes. Nothing changed. If anything, it got worse.
That's fine.
And like I said, I'm saying Showgirls is a better movie than that.
I can't agree with that.
What does that say?
I'm sorry, but I cannot agree with that.
You also said Death Proof's better than Planet Terror, so...
Hey, get the fuck out.
I think Machete is actually better than
Both of them?
Death Proof.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I'll say it's better than both of them. Sure.
But now we're looking at it through 4 different perspectives. Like, Colin's comparing it to Showgirls. I was actually going through horror eyes. That's where I caught the build-up and the serial killer thought. You're just going through the arts version. And then we got a fan over here, which is actually kind of a nice touch every now and then.
And this is why we have these conversations, because you get all sorts of different perspectives. I mean, not everybody can agree with us.
Oh, no.
You know, we're not fighting to, like, change your mind, John, you know.
No.
But
I mean, sometimes I try.
yeah.
You fail. You try, you fail.
Most of the time it ends up me screwing fuck you.
But this is why we get different genres and why we get different art and different movies, and it makes, you know, the expansion of this really great. I also like that Tarantino is also very un-PC, you know, and it's like carefree. It can feel real at times, and like his action can make things so over the top that it just cuts you out of it. Yeah. But, you know, it feels gritty and it feels real at times. Mm-hmm. And there are times where there are characters that, you know, just want to say exactly what you want to say without anybody, like, jumping down your throat by saying, like you hurt your feelings or sensitive, or that's not what we should say. It's just all right there out in the open. Yeah. Or like how the Nazis were talking about the Jews in Inglourious Bastards. It's like, yeah, if like you don't like that, that's how they talked. You know, they didn't care. They were going out killing people. What are you going to do? Go up to a Nazi and say, boy, that wasn't right. Excuse me?
Yeah.
I think the one that caught the most flack was the dialogue that Sam Jackson had in Glorious Bastards.
Django
Unchained, yeah.
And I'm like, I knew he caught flack for that one, but I'm like, it's the times.
Well, he did say that. People are going to hate my character, and he did say, hey, there were some people back then that were like this.
But also, that's, like, if you want emotion, that's what you got to do. You know, and for them to, like, say, like, there's some sense of authenticity, and to take that away, it's almost like rewriting history. I mean, even though it's not historically accurate, still, it can lead up to, like, more research or something, and have people go, oh, yeah, and so let's not do this again. You know, like, don't deny that and just erase it, and then when it comes back again, be like, oh, man, can you believe this? And it's like, well, it's not new. Yeah. We just erased it and didn't learn from it.
Yeah. Pretty much.
Now, you have a favorite scene or sequence, or your least favorite?
No. I said what I had to say, and it was just that I respected what they did as filmmakers by creating the nostalgia back. I love that Tarantino was completely authentic throughout Death Proof with the film and getting the real scratches and the dust prints, and Rodriguez doing the same thing. He did it digitally, obviously, and them adding the fake trailer, the intermission, how they had a love and enthusiasm and they just did it. But overall, I think that the only reason why we talk about this movie more is because of the nostalgia of, hey, in 2007, we were going to bring this back, and bring it back in film and show you what these old movies were like, but the movies themselves fall flat, and it's pretty much a gimmick as to what the 3D thing that they were going against was.
Yeah. John?
I mean, in terms of a favorite scene, or at least favorite scene, I'm at a loss for this one.
It's tough, man.
It's tough. I do enjoy the scene where Rose McGowan and Planet Terror is mowing down the zombies with a machine gun leg, because how often do you fucking see that in a movie? You don't. I mean, even though, like I said, I did say that Death Proof was my favorite of the two, but in terms of like a whole as a Tarantino film, this is like the bottom of the totem pole of his work as a whole. But yeah, I will admit my least favorite scenes were like the dialogue, the meandering dialogue, and like the diner sequence in the later part of Death Proof. I'm like, all right, can we progress and move on? But like I said, Kurt Russell's my favorite part of both those movies.
I'm sorry. I like with your facial hair and hair right now, dude. You totally look like Christian Bale talking about a Tarantino, and it just cracks me up.
What don't you fucking understand?
There you go.
You know what? After you said that, all I could think of was American Psycho.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, no wonder he loves Death Proof. They're killing all these chicks.
Do you like Tarantino films? Well, I feel...
Yeah.
Mary Elizabeth Winstead, would you mind accompanying me to dinner tonight? That is, if you're not doing anything. I mean, you're stuck with that guy from the Adam Sandler movies, but can you please just come to dinner with me instead? I don't know that guy's name, but he's like in every single Adam Sandler movie. He's the guy who gets like his lip bit off in
Kill Bill.
Kill Bill Volume 1.
Oh shit, I didn't realize I was in that movie too.
Yeah, he was.
Waterboy.
Justin?
My favorite scene out of Planet Terror is actually has Quentin Tarantino in it. It's when his balls fall off. But it's not because of that. It's because when he's going to try and rape Rose McGowan, and the lines that he uses, I've seen a stripper with one tit. I've seen a stripper with one eye, but I've never seen me a one-legged stripper. And it just, that line, and then his nuts fall off. It's just like, that is the best thing, I think, out of both these movies.
Oh.
But that's my opinion. Worst scene? I don't think I have a worst scene. I would just say Death Proof would probably be the worst scene.
An whole hour and 48 minutes.
Yeah,
Correct.
Fucking beat me to it. Oh my gosh. I'd say, honestly, I would go with, obviously the zombie scene where Rose McGowan's mowing him down, but I think Rose McGowan's like the stand-up performance out of both films. Even her small part in Death Proof was actually kind of funny because of her back and forth with Kurt Russell.
I said the same thing with Jackie. We were watching it, and I said, it sucks because she's like the best actress so far in this movie, and then they kill her off.
Yeah. I was like, I felt bad for her because like he's like, well, if you would have went right with me, I mean, if you would have said left, you would have been fine for a little while, and then I was like, damn, and then she gets it right on the dash. But yeah, I think like her one-liners in Planet Terror made it like just the little tongue-in-cheek jokes, and then obviously mowing down zombies with a machine gun leg is probably the funniest fucking thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, cause that was like true Grindhouse fashion, using the grenade launcher to launch herself over a wall, and just going through the whole dance routine. But we already know what I think of my worst part of the fucking.
Same thing I said, huh?
It's already been said.
Yeah.
So you guys have anything else to add to our Grindhouse discussion?
I'd say, honestly, it's worth checking out if you've never seen it before. If you haven't seen it in a while, just go for it because it still was a fun watch. Even though, yes, like it's a little hard to get through. But I think it was more fun just rewatching the trailers in between because it made it funny because I forgot about them all.
I will say, this isn't the worst movie or movies that I've ever seen. I mean, even though like we've bashed on Showgirls and we bashed on it really hard. But, I've given my 2 cents as to why I feel like it's better than Death Proof. But Planet Terror did have like its entertaining moments. It was steady and consistent. Death Proof was just like wow, when is this gonna end? Like what's gonna happen? You know, and like I said, all you see more is feet. Like, and I thought it was like hilarious to me that I saw Quentin Tarantino's name as a director of photography, and I was like, wow, so he actually did more actual camera handling of this movie, and it probably had more fucking feet shot of women than anything. And like I said, it goes all the way back to it's too much Tarantino in a Tarantino movie. It's like how I got this picture here, and it says, "I'm sad that I will never love anything as much as this person loves feet," and it's Tarantino on the photoshopped, obviously, on the back of a car with the license plate that says "Toe Sucker," "I heart feet." Hell yeah, I suck toes. And what's the other one? It's just more about toes. So yeah.
But it's true. Like every movie, you see somebody's foot somewhere. Like, dude, Uma Thurman's toes.
Yeah. Until now that you say that,
even like he sucks Selma Hayek's foot with the whiskey in From Dusk Till Dawn, and it's a Robert Rodriguez directed movie. But you know they're buddies.
So of course that was going to be in.
Yeah, and then I think he denied it too. He's like, I don't have a foot fetish, dude. And Tim Burton doesn't like horror things. Give me a fucking break.
Everybody's got a fetish. He just clearly shows it.
He really does.
Don't deny it.
Own up to it. Yeah, if I'm going to say one thing, I just do feel like watching this movie and how poorly it did at the box office, I just kind of feel like this entire experience was 5 years too late. They should have done this maybe like at the turn of it turning to 2000, 2001, 2002. Maybe this would have done better because people were still reeling in from the 90s, and maybe that would have caught fire a little bit better if it was earlier. And maybe this new generation of people just weren't ready to re-experience a Grindhouse film because you were trying to attract a new group of film goers, and that's probably why it didn't succeed so well.
I agree with you on that, John. And the reason why I mean, I'm 34 years old, and this came out in 2007, and I was 19 when this came out, and I was a younger person. When I first came out, I watched them, and I was just like, what is this? Like, this doesn't make sense to me. Mm-hmm. But I'm also in that little bit younger generation than you guys are of...
Fuck you, we're not that old. I'm like fucking 2 years older than you, prick.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, the digital age, like... Mm-hmm. Everything was more digital age. When I say that, I mean you guys are more of you watch the Grindhouses where I never did. I always grew up with everything was crisp, clean, and there was no Grindhouse. So This was the opening of Grindhouse to me.
The gateway.
The gateway of what an actual Grindhouse film is. And this was just kind of like, it was one of those, what is that? Like, what is... And like I said, like I knew who Quentin Tarantino was, but I didn't know who Rodriguez was either. So, like, I never saw Dusk Till Dawn. I never saw any of those until I watched these. And then it was kind of like one of those, like, well, back in 2007, I just graduated. I'm like, well, this was kind of good. So maybe their other films will be good. So then that opened me to Pulp Fiction. That opened me up to Reservoir Dogs, which I don't like. But it just opened me more to the Grindhouse of what it was. Now, these films for me, watching them now, Death Proof is not the greatest. If you guys want to watch them, I would watch Death Proof first, and then watch Planet Terror. I'd watch them out of order, because it's a lot. Yeah. I think the Planet Terror is a better film than the other. Are they both good? They're not great. But they're a good watch if you've never seen them.
Hence the Grindhouse name to it. But...
Yeah, and I agree with both of you guys. Like, Justin, you said it was a gateway for you, especially at your age and your generation. Like, we grew up with knowing the Independent Film Channel, and I remember you and I would talk about how we watched that channel notoriously, like, throughout high school.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, like, especially in 2004, like, 2003, 2004, when movies like The Punisher and Kill Bill were coming out. I mean, they were advertising that, and like we knew more about independent films than most of the people throughout high school and our age. Yeah. John, I think later on, like when we got to know each other in college, you knew about the Independent Film Channel and independent movies as well.
Oh, yeah.
Some people that we knew at our age didn't even know what an independent film
Then
was.
that's what I was. I didn't. It was in the movie theaters, and then it came out on DVD. You bought it, and then you watched it.
Yeah, so it's like
That
if
was
you're
it.
not a film buff, you didn't really know that. You just kind of saw it as like this double feature thing, and some people would be like, "What exactly is this?" And then you have to describe it to them.
Right.
But I hear what you're also saying about bringing it back in the early 2000s. But the problem with that was it was that transition period of them getting away, like Grindhouse movies are going to be non-existent, and the digital age, where if that transition didn't happen, Grindhouse wouldn't have happened.
Yeah.
So like I think the timing was wrong, like you said, but the motivation to do it wasn't there at that
Because I just
time.
wonder in 2007, why now? Why bring these movies in now? Maybe like when most of the decade was already past. If it had done well, maybe in 2001, 2002, then you could have had a couple of years for the rest of the decade to sort of reintroduce Grindhouse to a new generation of people. But then it's like Scream 4 says, new decade, new rules. So
Yeah, essentially.
But I think it's also like at that turn of the century, like we were all becoming, I guess, adults because we were graduating high school, going through that. We, like me and you, I know were younger on, and we were introduced to all like the crazy fucking films and at an earlier age, and it's just like I think that was also, like you said, the next generation, the gateway to seeing more. Where Justin was more into the digital, where it's clear, where we enjoy that 35 millimeter film, like. It kind of makes or breaks a movie. So like when Rodriguez actually put it like a filter over the film, it made it have that real feel about it.
It brought the theater at home.
Yeah, and then hell, I remember staying up late just to watch the shitty movies because it's fun.
like you're doing something you're not supposed to.
Yeah,
like the thrill of getting caught. Like, am I going to get caught watching this?
Yeah,
Yeah, a lot of independent films weren't like out to the masses. So when we like a movie like Boondock Saints, for a perfect example, nobody knew what the hell that movie was until
Word of mouth. Yeah.
And then until it was like going around, and if you had a copy of it, which was super rare at one point. I mean, now it's like on every format: special edition, expanded edition, DVD, Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And before it was like you had to like record it on VHS on TV in order to have it at first. And then the word of mouth and how this was like some little independent movie, and it just blew up.
Yeah.
The Boondock Saints, I actually saw that through my brother. My brother had a DVD copy of it, and that's how I learned of that film.
I had a steel book of it. Yeah. It was a steel DVD case. Opened it up, and there were the discs of special features, and then there was.
I had
I think
that
I
at
had that one
point.
too.
Yeah. I will say this, my last thing. If you want to watch a movie where Robert Rodriguez and Quentin Tarantino do it right as a collaboration, go watch the first Sin City.
That was good.
Oh,
Go
yeah.
watch that one. I mean, that's an obviously better choice than I think Grindhouse, but that came out before Grindhouse.
From
I
Dusk Till
believe.
Dawn, I would say too, was another good
Yeah.
one.
Okay.
that actually had more of a Grindhouse feel to it than what most people give it credit for.
Yeah.
Because you had everything in it. You had the tongue-in-cheek, you had the grittiness, you had the over-the-top violence.
Horror makeup.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you didn't have the nudity, which is you got
Kind of close.
Yeah.
Salma Hayek does a strip scene. Feet.
Feet in mouth,
Yeah.
foot and mouth disease.
Tarantino's also looking at what's her name?
Is it Juliette Lewis?
Juliette Lewis. Yeah, the girl from National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
Yes.
Yeah,
Juliette Lewis.
like he's looking at her foot while he's in the Winnebago as they're trying to get to Mexico.
This is bothering you.
It's just like they're all over the place. And then in Death Proof, it was so obvious. And then I heard that he tried denying it. Yet it's like
You did say that.
Well, the one girl's foot's hanging out the window when
the
Kurt
close up
Russell.
of the foot by his crotch during the quote unquote lap dance. Like, what the hell, man? Like, I don't want to see that shit in the movie theater. Like one, like a couple shots here or there, but no, it was all over the damn place, and it was like in every one of his movies. Okay, we get it.
Careful, man. They're gonna make a toe-sploitation film.
He's already doing it.
Feet-sploitation.
Probably will. Like I said, they should have just changed the name of Death Proof to Feet.
Feet proof.
Feet Proof.
No. Feet and not shutting the fuck up.
Yeah.
Feet that don't shut the fuck up? No.
Footproof. Footproof.
Footproof. Gotta cut loose. Footproof.
I think we should end it like that. Always good to end on a high note.
Yeah, I think we said what we had to say about it. I don't really know where else we can go with this conversation, but
Yeah.
that's Grindhouse, the Planet Terror, and Death Proof.
Yep.
Footproof.
So with that being said, we shall sign off. This is Colin Peters.
John fucking Rochetter.
Damn. Beat me to it.
Oh, you were gonna say Jeff fucking Manfred?
No, I was just gonna say fuck you. That's what...
So it's John fuck you, Rochetter.
And Justin Kim?
He can't breathe.
Well,
everybody knows I'm Jeff Manfred at this point. John said it for me.
Do we know?
yeah, who are you? You
Yeah,
said
Jim
Showgirls is better.
I know, man.
You agreed with me.
Wait, so I shaved my beard, and all of a sudden now I'm
Yeah.
agreeing that Showgirls is a decent film?
Yeah, who
Hey,
are you?
Listen. All Clark Kent has to do is comb his hair, take off glasses, and then he's Superman.
I know, right?
So yeah, I know it's only audio for this show, but still. Thank you all once again for listening. Stay safe. Stay crazy.
Please, somebody help me.
Oh, yeah.